They say how you start your day is how you live your life, but most people wake up already defeated. Their first decision isn't made by purpose, but by habit. Snooze button, scroll, sigh. They roll out of bed with the weight of yesterday still on their back. And that's the tragedy, because the war for your future doesn't start at the finish line. It starts in the dark, quiet, cold, alone, before the world is watching, before anyone claps, before there's any glory. It starts the moment your eyes open. This is the battlefield of champions, not stadiums, not boardrooms. The morning is the forge of destiny, and those who conquer it don't just win the day. They win the war of becoming something greater than they were yesterday. You want success? Don't look at someone's house, car, followers, or titles. Look at their mornings, because the morning exposes who's serious and who's just pretending. Benjamin Franklin was up at 5. Edison lit his nights with invention, but rose early to execute. Napoleon said, "The battlefield is won by those who show up before the sun." And even in silence, these men roared. They understood something timeless. The morning is the gatekeeper of momentum, and momentum is the compound interest of self-mastery. But it's not just about waking up early. That's surface. That's shallow. This is about waking up with fire, with reason, with a question that haunts your soul. What am I becoming? Because that's the question that carves mountains out of men. That's the thought that split the sea between the average and the extraordinary. What are you becoming? If you don't answer it, the world will. And the world doesn't care about your purpose. It will bury you in distraction, doubt, comparison, urgency, and mediocrity, all before breakfast. So when you rise, rise with ritual, rise with conviction, rise like the warrior who knows the storm is coming and chooses to walk into it first. The mind is fragile in the morning, impressionable. It's where identity is made or lost. Most people feed it noise. You must feed it vision, gratitude, power. That still moment of silence where you remember who you are and who you refuse to be. This is where belief is born. Not belief in comfort, belief in possibility, belief in growth, belief that you are not your past, not your pain, not your circumstances, that you are becoming, every single day, a living sculpture of discipline and clarity. When you rise with purpose, you don't beg the world to give you strength. You generate it. You don't hope for time. You create it. You don't react to life. You lead it. The most dangerous man in the room is not the loud one. He's the one who's already conquered himself before you ever saw him. Self-conquest is silent. It happens before sunrise. It doesn't post about the grind. It doesn't seek applause. It builds in shadows. It sharpens the mind while others sleep. And when it walks into the world, it walks with the calm of someone who knows they've already won the most important battle of the day. And if you win enough of those, you win your life. But winning isn't loud. It's subtle. It's in the small things. The choice to hydrate instead of reach for coffee, to meditate instead of check messages, to read instead of scroll, to sit in silence instead of drown in noise. These are not habits. They are declarations. They are lines drawn in the sand between who you were and who you will never be again. Clarity doesn't come by accident. It comes by ritual. The morning is where you extract the noise from your thoughts and replace it with direction, with focus, with a reason so clear it makes distractions repulsive. Most people drift into their day. You must drive into it like a man on a mission. You must plan your day like a general going to war, because that's exactly what it is. It's a war against every excuse that wants to steal your potential, every comfort that wants to seduce you back to average, every fear that whispers, maybe you're not enough. That's why the greats do hard things early. Cold showers, stillness, silence, study, sweat, reflection. Because when you do what's hard first, the rest of the day feels like mercy. But if you delay the difficult, the day becomes a battlefield of delay and regret and wasted opportunity. You build confidence by doing what others refuse to do when no one is watching. And the morning gives you that gift. But it also gives you clarity. The kind of clarity that builds cathedrals of progress brick by brick. When you open your eyes, ask yourself this: what matters most today? And what am I willing to suffer for to earn it? Because everything worth having comes with a price tag. And the morning is where you decide if you're willing to pay it. You won't always feel like it. That's the trap. If you only move when you feel like it, you'll be at the mercy of 1,000 moods, and each one will steal a piece of your greatness. Discipline is choosing who you want most over what you want now. And that choice begins, not when the world is watching, but when it's just you and the mirror, facing the honest question, am I serious? There is a level of power that lives beyond motivation. Motivation is cheap, fleeting, weak, but purpose. Purpose is a fire that can outlast storms, failure, fatigue, and even fear. You don't wake up to feel good. You wake up to become strong, to become prepared, to become centered, so that when the storms come, and they will, you're not surprised, you're not broken, you're ready. The warrior trains before the battle, because they know the fight isn't won in the moment, it's won in the repetition before the moment. You want peace? Then build structure. You want freedom? Then practice discipline. You want victory? Then make war against your excuses before they get out of bed. And the greatest war is the one inside. The morning is your armory, your temple, your training ground, not just for the body, but for the mind. Because your future is being shaped every day, not someday, not when it's convenient, but now, when it's hard, when it's dark, when no one's cheering. That's when the real builders of destiny get to work. You don't rise because it's easy. You rise because the version of you still sleeping is the version that's forfeiting the life you're meant to build. And here's the truth. There's always a version of you that wants to stay in bed, that wants to delay, that wants to hide from greatness because it fears the burden of potential. You must bury that version every morning and rise reborn. Because if you don't kill your comfort early, it will kill your calling slowly. The most dangerous form of decay isn't visible. It's invisible. It's internal. It's the erosion of your standard. One small compromise at a time. A skipped workout. A broken promise to yourself. A task postponed. These don't look like much on the surface, but brick by brick, they form a wall between you and your greatness. And once that wall is built, it becomes harder to see what you once believed was possible. That's why the morning matters. It is the demolition zone for doubt, the sacred time to tear down every limitation that tried to plant itself in your spirit while you slept. Because when you're half asleep, so are your defenses. Your habits, your patterns, your autopilot, they try to run the show. But here's the truth. You are not your patterns unless you protect them. And if your patterns are weak, your future is fragile. Every morning you must rise with the weapon of intention, not with aimless motion, but targeted energy. You must point your day like an arrow, and it begins by reclaiming your identity before the world gets a chance to rename you. Because the world is quick to label, lazy, undisciplined, forgettable. And if you're not vigilant, you'll believe it. You'll live it. But in the morning, before the noise, you get to remind yourself, I am not here to survive. I am here to lead, to create, to dominate my day with wisdom, not worry, with excellence, not excuses. Every great leader, from Lincoln to Mandela, from Carnegie to King, was forged in the silence of personal conviction. They knew leadership doesn't begin when the cameras are on. It begins when the alarm goes off and you choose to rise rather than rationalize. Because there is no freedom without structure. And structure begins with rhythm. The great pianist doesn't play beautiful music by accident. He builds a life around the scales, the hours of practice, the unseen repetitions. And then one day, when the moment arrives, He performs, and the world calls it talent. But it was never talent. It was ritual. Success, real success, is never spontaneous. It is engineered. And the blueprint begins with the first hour of the day. You see, discipline is the gate, but clarity is the key. Most people don't lack motivation. They lack direction. They wake up already overwhelmed because they never took time to decide what matters. They let the urgent replace the important, and slowly, they forget the mission. But not you, not anymore. You don't wake up to put out fires. You wake up to build fire. And if the path ahead looks foggy, don't curse the darkness. Create the vision. Sit with yourself, journal, meditate, speak your future out loud until it echoes back in the chambers of your mind like thunder. Because clarity isn't found, it's created. And the morning is your canvas. Paint it with questions that matter. What does success look like to me, not to them? What am I avoiding that I know will set me free? If today was my last day alive, would I be proud of how I began it? These questions hurt, yes, but they hurt in a way that heals, that strips away the delusion, that calls the bluff on the lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. Comfort is seductive, but comfort is a cage, and it doesn't look like bars. It looks like convenience, like skipping the hard thing just once, like sleeping in just today, like I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow is the lie that mediocrity tells the dreamer to keep him asleep. And if you don't break that cycle in the morning, it becomes your identity by night. You must get ruthless about your mornings, because the world is ruthless about stealing your attention, your peace, your power. The moment you wake up, you are either training your mind or being trained by the noise. You don't need 12 hours to change your life. You need one sacred hour to align your spirit with your goals, to build resilience before the world tests you, to remember who you are and what you stand for. That is your edge. That is the unfair advantage. Because 99% of people are waiting for motivation, for better conditions, for some external force to fix the way they feel. But the 1%, the rare few, they build the conditions. They wake up and become the force. They don't ask, what's the weather today? They ask, what storm will I command today? They don't fear discomfort. They befriend it. Because they know that fire does not burn the iron. It tempers it. You are becoming unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you refuse to negotiate your values in the morning when they matter most. And here's what most never understand. Winning the morning is not about the perfect routine. It's about ownership. Ownership of your thoughts, of your time, of your energy. Because energy is your currency and the morning is your investment account. Waste it and you'll spend the rest of the day broke in spirit. But invest it and you'll walk through your day like a man who owns the clock, not a man being chased by it. Time is not your enemy. It's your servant when you learn to command it. So command it. Rise before the world. While the weak dream, you build. While others react, you create. While they distract themselves, you define yourself. Because this isn't about motivation anymore. It's about metamorphosis. The butterfly doesn't hope for transformation. It enters the cocoon and dies to its former self. It chooses isolation to become liberation. It chooses darkness to become light. And when it emerges, it doesn't crawl, it flies. You too must go through that cocoon, and the cocoon is your morning. It's not sexy, it's not social, it's not glamorous, but it's where you shed the skin of who you've been and step into the wings of who you're destined to be. But only if you choose. Every morning, the choice is offered: return to the old or rise into the new. And make no mistake, rising hurts. It burns the weakness. It offends the ego. It threatens the part of you that wants to stay liked, comfortable, predictable. But it also awakens the part of you that was born to lead, to inspire, to conquer. You are not here to repeat yesterday. You are here to design tomorrow. and the design begins in the dawn. Because those who own the morning don't need to chase the day, they attract it. And when you stack enough mornings like that, disciplined, intentional, powerful, your future becomes inevitable. Because when your mornings become sacred, your life becomes sovereign. You stop living in reaction. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop needing permission to be powerful. You rise, and with each disciplined morning, you declare to the universe, to yourself, and to the old version of you, I am no longer available for average. Let others check their phones. You check your pulse. You feel your breath. You feel your feet on the floor, and know that you're still here, alive, and therefore accountable. There is no traffic jam at 5 a.m. There is only clarity, stillness, a voice waiting to be heard, yours. But you've got to listen. You've got to hear the truth your higher self is trying to whisper before the noise of the world drowns it out. That whisper says, you were made for more. Not more stuff, not more attention, more meaning, more strength, more legacy. And that is built with the raw material of your mornings. The Roman legions didn't win battles on instinct. They won them through preparation. They drilled relentlessly in the early light, not because they feared war, but because they feared what would happen if they weren't ready. And most people today, they aren't ready. Not for the rejection, not for the failure, not for the stress, not for the long game, because they've trained for comfort, not for greatness. But you're different. You're here now, listening, building, becoming. While the world waits for circumstances to change, you're changing your conditioning. Because if you don't program your mind, the world will do it for you. If you don't seize the first hour, your whole day gets hijacked by 100 petty problems and 1,000 digital distractions designed to keep you docile, distracted, predictable, and predictable men don't shape history. The men who shape history are unavailable in the morning. Not because they're lazy, but because they're engaged in higher work, the inner work, the soul work, the self-excavation that builds an internal world so strong, nothing external can shake it. And what is discipline if not devotion to the future version of yourself? You don't work out because you love push-ups. You work out because you respect the man you're building. You don't journal to fill pages. You journal to remember your mission. You don't meditate for calm. You meditate for clarity, for sovereignty, for separation from the chaos that drowns the undisciplined. And when that version of you becomes real, when he walks through the door, shoulders squared, eyes focused, soul aligned, people will say you're lucky, but you will know, luck is just the shadow of relentless preparation. Let others chase motivation. You chase meaning, because motivation comes and goes. But meaning will drag you out of bed like a soldier summoned to duty. And yes, it is a duty. To your family, to your dream, to the man you said you'd be when no one else was watching. You can't fake mornings. They don't lie. They reveal. They show you the truth about your priorities, your discipline, your mindset. Are you reactive or intentional? Passive or powerful? Waiting or creating? Every morning, you must re-choose the life you say you want. And you must back that choice with action so loud that your future cannot help but respond. It is not enough to want it. The world is filled with dreamers without discipline. The ones who rise are the ones who act, the ones who follow through, the ones who don't just post quotes, they live them. You want freedom? Good. Earn it. You want to lead? Great. Start with yourself. You want to leave a legacy? Then leave no room for excuses before 8 a.m. Because the man who conquers his mornings doesn't need to prove himself to the world. The world adjusts around him. He walks into chaos with calm. He walks into pressure with poise. He walks into temptation with truth. Because he has already stared down his worst self in the mirror and refused to let him lead. This is the warrior's code. To become so rooted in purpose that nothing sways you. To rise early not because it's trendy, but because the version of you that sleeps in simply doesn't deserve the life you've imagined. And yes, it will cost you. But comfort is the price you pay for greatness. And when the alarm rings, it's not just a sound, it's a question. Will you rise, or will you repeat? Repeat the habits that kept you stuck. Repeat the thoughts that made you small. Repeat the stories that told you someday is good enough. Or will you rise into a life that demands more, requires more, gives more? Because this world does not need more men chasing significance. It needs more men chasing substance. Men who can say, I don't need applause, I need alignment. Men who can say, I don't need hype, I need honor. Men who rise for something bigger than themselves. And that something? It starts with how you begin, not how you end. Because every empire is built one brick at a time, and every brick is laid when no one is watching. The question is, are you laying bricks or making excuses? Because every morning is a negotiation between who you were and who you're becoming, between what's easy and what's right, between what's comfortable and what's calling you. And you must choose before the world gets a say. Because the man who wins the morning doesn't just win the day. He wins his soul back. He wins his name back. He wins the respect of the only person that truly matters when the dust settles, the man in the mirror. And when that man in the mirror looks back at you, not with shame, but with steel in his eyes, you will know. You didn't quit on yourself. You didn't flinch when it was hard. You didn't sell your future for 5 more minutes of sleep. You showed up. And the world, it felt you. Because power isn't in your voice, it's in your presence. And presence is born in the quiet discipline of early hours, before emails, before traffic, before chaos. That's where real presence is forged, in the furnace of self-respect. You see, every morning is a vote for the man you want to be, or the man you were hoping to escape. Every decision compounds, every ritual matters, not because it's flashy, but because it's faithful. Every push-up, every cold shower, every page turned, every breath drawn with intention. They build something no shortcut ever could, inner gravity. That's the force that bends the day to your will. You think the world bends for luck? No, it bends for those who are too disciplined to beg for it. It bends for the ones who walk into the fire of the morning willingly, not because they enjoy pain, but because they've tasted purpose. And once you've tasted purpose, comfort is bitter. Ease feels hollow. The snooze button feels like betrayal, because you know that how you do one thing is how you do everything. You know that the man who breaks a promise to himself before sunrise cannot be trusted to build anything that lasts. You know that if you let the soft voice win in the morning, it will scream louder every day after. And you're not here for that life anymore. You're not here for almost. You're not here for kinder. You're not here for good enough. You're here to rise, not just in time, but in standard, in presence, in legacy. Because someone's watching you, your kids, your brother, your team, your younger self. Someone out there is praying for proof that it's possible. That discipline still works, that honor still means something. And you, by winning the morning, become that proof. You don't need to speak to be heard. The way you move, the way you carry your day, the way your eyes meet challenge and refuse to blink, that's the sermon. That's how you preach. That's how you lead. You don't need fireworks. You need consistency. You need stillness when others panic. You need direction when others drift. And you'll find it, not in the noise of the world, but in the silence you conquer before the world even wakes up. That silence is holy. It's not empty. It's full of answers. But you'll never hear them if your first act is to run from it. You must stay in the silence. Let it cut you open. Let it show you your distractions, your weaknesses, your truths, and then build in it. because empires rise from the ashes of self-delusion, and what's burned in the morning is what no longer serves you. Let the ego burn. Let the laziness burn. Let the doubt burn. Let everything that makes you small burn. And from those ashes, walk out new, reforged, recalibrated, realigned. Because winning the morning is not about success. It's about sovereignty. The sovereign man doesn't need to be told what to do. He doesn't need praise. He doesn't need a reason to rise. He rises because it is who he is. He rises because his mission is louder than his mood. And if you can live like that, not just once, but every single day, you won't need to chase a winning season. You'll have a winning life. Because discipline doesn't just build income. It builds integrity. It doesn't just create productivity. It creates power. And all of it begins when you choose to own the morning. So when that alarm rings tomorrow, don't hear it as an alarm. Hear it as the trumpet, the war cry, the reminder that your destiny is waiting. And the only thing between who you are and who you could become is that one decision, to rise or to repeat. So rise while they sleep. Rise while they hesitate. Rise while they complain, compare and scroll. You rise and let the world know that the war for your life will be won before the sun even dares to rise. Win the morning, win the war. Let them remember you for how you began. Let your mornings be your legacy.